think that the books in this case aren't giving Penn State enough credit for being at home. Joe, there's miserable, and then there's being in central Pennsylvania in December. It's a different type of miserable, and I think that's what SMU is going to experience on Saturday at noon when the temperature is about 20 degrees. And it's 20 degrees, and there's wind, and there's fog. It's. I've been to Penn State games plenty in November and later. It's just not a good experience. And this is an SMU team that, despite being in the ACC, didn't have to come up here in their first year in the ACC. They didn't have to play at BC. They didn't have to play at Pitt. They actually had pretty mild weather for all of their road games. You know, they went over to Virginia, to Duke, out to Stanford, Nevada way back earlier in the season. So they haven't experienced anything like 20 degrees in December in central PA. And I think it matters. And I give them a bigger home court, or home, like in college basketball, I'm calling it home court, home field than the books are here. I have this in the 11 to 12 range. And right now you're still getting 10 and, you're still getting 8.5, which I think is a pretty good bet on Penn State. Now, these teams are similar in the respect, Joe, that I think they're both pretty consistent run and pass. They're both pretty good on both sides of the ball. When you look at the numbers, if you threw this game on a neutral field in like Glendale, Arizona or something, I think you could make a case that like they're two similar teams. But the difference to me is I've watched a ton of ACC football this year. It's the majority of what I watch. I go to ACC games, when I go to Syracuse games, and it just the quality of football in the ACC this year, in my opinion, did not match the Big Ten. And I think it's something of an eye test thing that you could see watching these two teams play simultaneously on Championship Saturday. If you had the SMU Clemson game on and the Penn State Oregon game on, in my opinion, both these teams lost. There was no question who the more impressive team was, and that was Penn State. And then you talk about SMU and all these unbalanced schedules. They didn't have to play Miami. They didn't have to play Syracuse. We saw them play Clemson. They should have lost by more. Clemson kind of like started to take the foot off the gas and try to just, run the clock out. And SMU almost came back and won the game. But in my opinion, they should have lost by more. They should have lost to Duke as an 11-point favorite. So, you want to give them credit for beating Louisville and Pitt. Those are two teams that faded down the stretch. That's what it comes down to for me, Joe. Penn State's just a better team. They played in a better conference. And I think if you've watched these two teams this year, it's clear as day. Add in the fact that SMU is going to have to go play in a sold out or a crazy crowd in Happy Valley and a 20-degree kickoff, probably 19, 20, 21 degrees at kickoff on Saturday. I don't see how they hang around here. I think Penn State rolls.
So we say, and it's a class really handicap, right? We talk about class in horse racing a lot, Trig, and some horses just have always faced tougher competition, and they're being outclassed here. We also saw Cade Klubnik, who I don't think is great, but we did watch him throw for 262 and 4 touchdowns against this SMU secondary. Drew Allar should have just as much success, if not more, no?
Joe, the ACC shouldn't have two teams in this field. I know that people didn't want to put Bama in. It's ridiculous. This is a bad conference. There was a lot of bad football played in the ACC this year. Like, if you get through, go to teams 7 through 17, it was a lot of bad football. And that's where I just think that, SMU catching, the easier schedule in this conference, I just don't think they're on the – yeah, I don't think they're in the same class as Penn State, and I would lay the 8.5. I think they could pull away in this one.